and thank you. I'm glad to be sharing with you all today, and I want to give a special shout out to everyone who has told me, I don't usually go to chapel, but I heard you were speaking, so I thought I wanted to come. You have no idea how much that means to me. In the 22 years of my life this far, I do not think I have ever heard my mom say, I'm sorry. Instead, I would find that my mom had prepared my favorite meal the next day, had maybe left a little hope you have a great day note on my desk, or maybe bought me a nice little hair clip to go with my dance uniform during my time as a ballerina. But I didn't always realize that every little thing my mom did was an expression of something greater, that the meaning attached went beyond its face value, that every don't forget your umbrella, it will rain later today, and every tell your friends they're invited anytime was written with love, forgiveness, and care. I grew up in a Bolivian Catholic household and attended a Catholic school. My years here at Jewell have deeply challenged and broadened my perception and understanding of faith, service, but above all, of love. When I was in England during my junior year, I found the Oxford University Catholic chaplaincy, and being the person that I am, decided to get as involved as possible, and quickly found myself on the student-led Newman Society Committee and in charge of social events. Every Thursday evening, at around 5 p.m., those of us on the committee would gather around and start preparing a meal from scratch. It was never fun to be on garlic or onion duty, and we definitely relied way too much on pasta. By 7 p.m., people would start trickling in, and we'd see friends, old faces, new people, different faiths, and new cultures. After dinner, we would invite everyone to the Blue Room for a talk. We would host speakers from different ends of the world, talking about religion, about their ways of service, about ways to bridge the gap between what appears to be the ideal of faith and our lived experiences of spiritual devotion and service. After that, we would have a lovely glass or two of wine with everyone before heading back to the chapel for adoration, benediction, and compline. But I did not realize that I was often doing things a little differently than my friends. I did not always go up to the Blue Room to attend the lecture, and I did not always go back to the chapel for adoration, benediction, and compline. Instead, a friend or two would come back with me to the kitchen to wash up the dishes and pots that had been left after dinner. It was during one of those evenings, when I was elbow deep in pots and pans of leftover spaghetti, that Father Matthew, one of the chaplains, came over to me and said, "Thais, I've noticed something." I smiled and asked, "What?" And he goes, "I think you spend more time in the kitchen than you do at the chapel." I laughed it off at the moment. "Oh yeah, I think I do." But I don't think he realized how such a small comment would make me reflect on how I was living and expressing my faith. It sent me on a journey in which I questioned the purpose, the motivations, and the intentions of my expressions of faith. Little did I know that as I was washing dish after dish and drying pan after pan, I would end up thinking about my mom. And all of those meals that whispered, "I'm sorry," all of those little notes that actually meant, "I love you," and all of those little gifts that showed the most genuine and motherly care. I realized faith comes in many shapes and forms, much like love. Our expressions of spirituality are not clear-cut and cannot be put into a box. I realized that, as much as with love, there aren't better or worse expressions of spirituality. Faith is as much descriptive as it is normative. The lived expression of faith goes beyond measures of right or wrong. Faith, and most importantly, faiths, can function as capacities to be exercised and expressed in a multitude of ways. As varied as expressions in words, make sure you grab a jacket before you go, and familiar prayers ending on Amen, to acts of caring and service. Truly living out faith is teleological. Faith has an end expressed beautifully through many different means. I've often heard, "Oh wait, you're Catholic? But I don't see you going to Mass every single Sunday or always wearing a cross around your neck." And I realized that any expression of love or faith is as powerful as the next. Mine maybe takes the form of service to others as I do the dishes. Mine probably takes the form of service above doctrine, of time spent with others over traditional dogmatic structures. My faith includes a lot of hugging. Oh, I cannot count the number of cupcakes and cookies that I've baked that actually meant, forgive me, get better soon, or I love you. Perhaps pastries better express my faith than prayer. And I'm humbled to reflect on the passage from John 13, in which Jesus washes his disciples' feet, stating, I have given you an example, that you should do as I have done to you. So perhaps we need to rethink faith a little. Perhaps we need to step away from understandings of spirituality that attempt to dictate what faith should look like. I would want to challenge anyone here who does not consider him or herself particularly faithful or spiritual to re-explore its expression. Perhaps we can find as many expressions of faith as there are of love, as many as the reflections of a prism. And perhaps, just perhaps, faith and love are not that indistinguishable after all. We might find our faiths and their expressions to be more similar than we first thought. It's not a label, it's not a routine, it's lived, it's love.